food. So I angle myself this way. Well, good evening. My name is Byron Cherry, as he said, and I'm honored to have the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I'd like to first give a sincere thank you to Nikki and to the entire team at PracticePro for affording me the privilege to be in front of you. And I'd like to thank Nikki especially for that very kind and gracious introduction. As I've said time and again, never underestimate the power and efficacy that a crisp $20 bill can have. Now, full disclosure, I was not familiar with PracticePro or even aware of its existence prior to being asked to speak at this conference. Even though, as it turns out, I've known some of the organization's advisors like Bruce Brzezinski and some of the prior speakers like Travis Torrance and Renee Lowe for many years. For some reason, it just hadn't come up in conversation previously. But in researching the organization, I was pleasantly surprised and encouraged to discover that its missions, preparing law students and junior attorneys for the real practice of law and enhancing diversity within the legal profession, have been very important concepts to me throughout my legal career. So in that respect, it was kind of like that Will Smith matchmaker movie Hitch from 2005. PracticePro was the very thing I never knew I always wanted. And in contemplating my remarks tonight, I thought it would be appropriate to talk to you about 5 steps to achieving success in the practice of law. But before I do that, I wanted to give you a little background on me. So for those of you who read my bio, you may have heard some of this, or you've heard some of it in Nikki's remarks, but for those of you who haven't, I was born and raised here in Houston, Texas. I grew up in the Sunnyside area of town off of the South Loop 610 freeway, which just last year in 2018, I had the great distinction of being ranked the 6th most dangerous neighborhood in America. Which, in the 1970s and early 80s, when I was growing up, was slightly better, but still not great. And in that respect, it's kind of like Chris Rock used to talk about his neighborhood as it deteriorated and watching his play area shrink. Like his mom said, okay, you can play from this street to this street. And as things got worse, okay, you can play from this block to this block. And as things got even worse, you can play from this house to this house. And by the time he was 10, he had to stand on his front porch and just hop on one leg in a circle. So that was Sunnyside. And I grew up in my family lived in the same small 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 0-car garage house that my mother had grown up in decades earlier. And just around the corner from the very same elementary, middle, and high school that both my parents and some of my aunts and uncles had attended. Now, the geographic proximity to those schools notwithstanding, given the tenor of the neighborhood and the associated threat level, my mother thought it more prudent for me to seek my educational opportunities elsewhere. So I went to preschool at St. Paul's School, which in the 1970s was a very small set of classrooms in the basement catacombs of the church by the same name in the museum district. I attended elementary school at Annunciation Orthodox School, or AOS. And although AOS has grown in all respects over the years to become one of the leading independent schools in the city of Houston, in those days it was still a very small, predominantly Greek or Greek Orthodox school with a total enrollment of about 150 students. To further put that into perspective, my graduating class from 6th grade consisted of only 6 people. During my time as a student at AOS, and the latter part of my 2nd grade year, my parents, who had been childhood and high school and college sweethearts, decided that they were ultimately much better apart than they were together. So they divorced, leaving my mom to raise me essentially on her own as a single parent with an occupational therapist's salary. I attended middle school and high school at St. John's School, which was and still is one of the premier independent schools in the city of Houston, the state of Texas, and by many accounts, the United States, graduating in 1992. I matriculated at the University of Pennsylvania in the Wharton School of Business, graduating with a degree in finance in 1996, and since I had attended college on a Naval ROTC scholarship and had participated in the Naval ROTC program for my entire time at Penn, Upon graduation, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps and served for 4 years on active duty as a tank officer from 1996 to 2000. Upon leaving active duty, I attended law school at the University of Florida College of Law, graduating in 2003, and returning home to Houston to start my legal practice. Now, I began my legal career as a transactional attorney with Vincent Elkins in what was then called the Business and International, or BUSY section for short. The obvious play on words being that we were very busy attorneys. That group dealt with any and all transactional matters that were not purely securities and corporate finance on the one hand, or municipal bond work and public finance on the other hand, which were handled by two separate practice groups. So we handled anything and everything from mergers and acquisitions, commercial real estate, finance and lending work, energy transactions, project development, and other areas. I worked at B&E for roughly 7.5 years before going in-house in 2011. I've been in-house counsel with a few different companies in a few different roles. I was associate counsel at Neighbors Industries, the drilling company. I was assistant general counsel and interim general counsel at Ion Geophysical. And for the past 3 years, I've been senior legal counsel with HP Inc., having now practiced law for over 15 years. Now, over the course of that same 15-year time span, whether through my own personal experiences or through the experiences of other colleagues, through interaction with and guidance from mentors, or just through simple trial and error, I've identified a number of what I believe to be important steps to achieving success in the practice of law, 5 of which I wanted to share very briefly with you tonight. Now, disclaimer, this list is not exhaustive. There are other smaller, more nuanced steps and strategies one can take, but these are 5 of the larger, more critical ones. So let's jump into it. First, and this might seem simplistic or sound that way, but you should decide on what your definition of success is and what that looks like for you. What's your end game? At the end of the day, when all is said and done, when the smoke clears and the dust settles, where, who, and what do you want to be? You need to know what your destination is so that you can begin with the end in mind. Along those same lines, part of that process requires you to determine what type of attorney you want to be. And I'm not talking about the practice area or substantive legal specialty. I mean, what is being an attorney, what role will that fill in the rest of your life? Will it consume your entire life, or will it just be a part of it? Will the firm or your legal department be just a place you come to work, or will it be the central organizing principle of your life? And in connection with that, you need to determine what type of person you want to be outside of that. And as a straight, cisgendered male, I'll use the following words: what type of man, what type of boyfriend, what type of fiance, what type of husband, what type of father, what type of son, what type of brother, what type of uncle, what type of nephew, church member, whatever it is, scout leader, do you want to be in the rest of your life? And what, if anything, are you willing to sacrifice or trade in order to achieve those visions? And as importantly, what are you willing to tolerate in order to achieve that vision? Now, the reason you should make those decisions and answer those questions is because at some point, probably very early in your legal career and on a recurring basis thereafter, those concepts are going to come in direct conflict with each other. And the clearer and more definitive your answers are to those questions, the simpler, not easier, mind you, but simpler it will be to resolve those conflicts. The hard part is that no one else can really answer those questions for you. The answers are very personal to you and may differ wildly from your peers' answers and the answers that other people might have for you. In all of that, you must be true to yourself and what resonates with you. You'll do yourself a great disservice if you do anything otherwise. As Shakespeare said, "This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man." And to give you an example, just from my own legal experience, I was 3 months on the job at Vincent Elkins. I was working with a mid-level to senior associate on a financing transaction. This was a syndicated deal, which simply means that it was a group of banks as opposed to just one lender. And so all of them had to approve the agreement and execute the agreement. And we've been working on it for 2 to 3 weeks. Around the clock, it was about maybe a $50 to $75 million deal, which in Byron Cherry money is a lot of money. But to the banks, not much in the grand scheme of things. And so we've been working around the clock. It was execution day or closing day, and now we're just waiting on signature pages to come in. So of the 8 or so banks that were part of the syndicate, we'd received about 4 or 5 signature pages, so we were down to the last 3 or 4. We're in the home stretch. Sitting in my office about a little later than right now, about 7, 8 o'clock at night, and I get a call from my mother telling me that my grandmother had just been rushed to the hospital with congestive heart failure and a severe heart attack, and prognosis is not great. And everybody's gathering at the hospital because we don't know, what the next few hours will bring, whether she'll live through the night or anything like that. So it kind of, caught me on my heels. So I went in to tell the senior associate I was working with what was going on. Tell him, hey, I need to go. We're in the home stretch, and I think we're about there, so we got to get to the hospital. And he said, well, I just don't want anything to slip through the cracks, and I could really use a second set of eyes, so I'm not going to be able to let you go to the hospital. But, hopefully things work out. Once we're done, then maybe you can get over there. And I said, yeah, you're not going to let me go with the circumstances that I just described to you. And I'm not proud of what I did. I stayed. So don't take that as a badge of honor. I don't. I'm ashamed that I did that. But that's what I did. The reason is because now the desire to be a great attorney and to provide great legal services to both my internal clients and my external clients had now come into direct conflict with my desire to just be a person, to be a human being, to be a good grandson to the woman who had helped to raise me. And so as I sat there stewing, as mad at myself as I was at the senior associate, I said, a couple of things are going to happen after today. If she does not make it through the night and I've missed my opportunity to say goodbye, this will be one of the shortest legal careers in Vincent Elkin's history. Then I'm going to walk out the door tomorrow. If she does live, however, then I will never be on the wrong side of this decision again. And I have to step up and determine who I'm going to be as contrasted with the practice of law. Now, for some of you and for other attorneys, that answer may differ. You may say, well, no, the deal comes first, the client comes first, and if that's the right answer for you, then that's fine. But that was a lesson that I learned, so that's why I tell you that make those decisions now, because as they come up, and they will, and they get only more nuanced from there. It's your child's birthday party, but the client wants to have a conference call. It's your honeymoon or your baby moon, and the client wants you to cut it short because they want to have an all-hands meeting just for the day, and then I guess you can go back to Fiji or wherever you were. So that's the first one. The second thing, you must understand that there is no small or unimportant assignment, and you should never, therefore, treat any assignment as small, unimportant, or trivial. Like swing for the fences and put your best foot forward in everything that you do. Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Don't half step. The merit of an assignment is not simply that you did it, but that you did it well. Proofread, then proofread again. Then put it down, walk away, take a break, come back, and proofread it once more before you send it out. Realize and accept that there is no such thing as a rough draft that you are turning in to somebody else, even if they are seemingly asking for one. That is a trap for the unwary. Right? Be meticulous. Display great attention to detail. And you do this even though you might see others who may or may not look like you who are getting away with not doing it. Don't make the mistake of presuming that any slack that gets cut to your colleagues in any way translates to you. Third, be entrepreneurial. Seek out opportunities to work with people who do the type of work you want to do, or you might even think you want to do. Go to their office, track them down in the hallway, in the elevator, in the parking garage, wherever. I mean, you can leave them alone in the restroom, but when they come out, ask them for work. And even if you're not certain what type of work you want to do, in any event, still go out and seek the opportunities for work from the partners, who earlier in your career are essentially your internal clients. Don't wait for work to come to you, but be open to any opportunities if and when they do come. You must learn and understand the business of law and legal practice. You should early on start to develop the skill of getting new business from your internal clients, the partners, and repeat business from your satisfied customers. A business needs to do 3 things at the end of the day to survive. It needs to expose new customers to its goods, products, or services. It needs to develop a loyal customer base. And then it needs to develop brand ambassadors who go out and sing the praises, which then brings you back to new customers. And that's what you do with the partners. And this is a practice and kind of the run-up to your possibly becoming partner one day, right? Partnership, or being an owner of the business, is like dividing up a pie. You have your share of the pie, that's your sharing ratio. And admitting new partners, if the pie doesn't grow, effectively just reduces my portion of the pie as a partner. So make no mistake that the decision to admit somebody to partnership is not one of friendship or liking someone. It's a business decision. I invite you to share in the pie because I believe you have the skills and the wherewithal to make the pie bigger. So my piece gets bigger or stays the same, but certainly doesn't decrease. And so that's part of being entrepreneurial and getting those skills that will help you develop business in the future. 4th, communicate early and often. Ask yourself, what do I know? Who else needs to know it? And have I told him or her? Keep your clients, colleagues, seniors, and subordinates informed. Bad news is not like a fine wine. It does not get better with age. Relay both good information and bad information with equal speed. Not with equal enthusiasm, understandably, but at the very least, with equal speed. If you make a mistake, own up to it. Take responsibility for it, and do your utmost to fix it with a quickness. Similarly, if you have a question about something, ask it. If you need clarification, get clarification. Don't assume, and don't try to read minds. Closed mouths don't get fed, so open your mouth and speak up. There's an old notion that the only stupid question is the one not asked. Now, I have admittedly seen some people challenge that notion over the years and put that to the test. But in general, questions have value. You'll always keep in mind the George Bernard Shaw quote that the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that is actually taking place. So speak up. 5th and finally, treat everyone with respect and civility. That's everyone, regardless of position, socioeconomic status, job function, educational level, race, nationality, creed, physical ability, what have you. And you do that for 2 primary reasons. First is that it's simply the right thing to do. Most of the world's religions have some concept or notion of treating others as you would want to be treated, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. And presumably, you wouldn't want to be mistreated, abused, or disrespected if the tables were turned, so don't treat other people that way. Furthermore, how you treat other people is a reflection on you and speaks to your character. As Malcolm Forbes once observed, you can easily judge the character of a man by how he treats those who can do nothing for him. The second reason is from an economic or enlightened self-interest standpoint. And that is, at the end of the day, you don't know whom that other person knows, who happens to be in that person's network, and to what extent that person's reach may far exceed their grasp. That project assistant or that paralegal who didn't perform whatever assignment you had up to your standards, and so you felt put upon to berate that person and dress them down and show how much of a master of the universe you were, turns out that he or she carpools in to work every day with the managing partner's secretary. True story. So you have done yourself a disservice because that person has the managing partner's secretary's ear, and best believe that she has the managing partner's ear. So you thought that person couldn't do anything for you or to you, but you were sorely mistaken. But that notwithstanding, again, it's the right thing to do just to treat people the right way. Because the old adage, to the behind, you have to kiss tomorrow. So in closing, ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, the path to success, however you may define it, whether in the practice of law or in life, is a very personal one, which you will have to try to successfully navigate. And while there are many things to be mindful of on your journey, I just wanted to highlight a few of the things that I think might help keep you on the right track and stop you from stumbling. And I hope that you find them useful. So take care, take charge, take a breath, take a break when you need to, and I hope to see you at the top, not just from the top. Thank you.